Hi, Saadia. How are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Musa. How are you?
Wassalam. Thanks for joining us. I know it's
Thank
quite
you for
late.
having me. Very
Uh,
happy to be here.
so please, we will start with your formal introduction for the day. Please go ahead.
Sure. But before I get into that, I want to just say quickly thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here on this platform to speak on this very important subject and also to be in the company of these amazing women because I've been listening since 6 o'clock. And you really have done an excellent job in selecting the speakers because I have learned so much about, the perspective from, for example, Nighat sitting in the US and Urooj and the other speakers and Haseeba who just spoke. It takes a lot of courage to speak about something like that on a public forum. So I think you're doing an amazing job with Berkeley Middle East. So congratulations on that. Um, so just to give you a bit of my story, I was born in Karachi, so I'm actually from Karachi. That's my hometown. I went to school there. I went to college there. I had my first two jobs in Karachi as well. So straight out of college, working as a teacher in a school, which I loved for 2 years, and then with American Express. Um, I moved to Dubai in 1993, which was more than 25 years ago. And I went straight into a corporate job. I was very lucky to be hired by a very large multinational media company that was looking to set up in the Middle East. And I was actually hired as a call center agent in the customer service division. And I stayed with them for 15 years. And a lot of people used to tell me this is a long time for someone to be in a company. But I think I was very lucky because I was able to work with some incredibly smart people and some generous people because they taught me a lot. And I also was able to grow. So I wasn't doing obviously the same thing for so many years. And when I left 15 years later, I was the regional head for Middle East and Africa. It was a very interesting journey. It was a lot of hard work and yes, breaking glass ceilings. Now, let me remind you, this was mid 90s. Yeah, so things were very different then in the world and also in UAE from what they are today. But there weren't a lot of women in senior roles even then. So I didn't have a lot of role models to look up to within the corporate structure that I was in. But I have to say, I think I was very privileged to have worked in that company because it gave me an excellent foundation for professionalism and for service standards and best practice. And that really did become the cornerstone of what I'm doing today and where I am today in my corporate life. I left when I was at a stage of burnout. And I think anyone who's worked in the corporate commercial world for a number of years will know that. We've had two people speaking from KPMG. I'm sure they know what that's about because they work some unreal hours there. Um, I left and I decided to follow my passion, which is food and cooking, still is. I started a food business and I then went on to set up and run a restaurant in Dubai. A lot of people thought I was crazy. That was probably the toughest thing I've ever done in my life, tougher than a corporate career in a lot of ways. I think physically and emotionally, it was extremely demanding. Um, so that's been a journey of almost 30 years if I count my time in Pakistan and here. Yes, it's been a different experience working in the UAE because, as a couple of speakers said earlier, that living in UAE, we're very lucky, especially single women, because of the fact, even back then when I moved here, I never felt unsafe. Not that I was, I was not a very social person in those days. I didn't have much of a social life, but I never felt unsafe, and I always felt that in any case, whenever you had to interact with the authorities here, whether it was with the police or with immigration or anyone, they were extremely respectful and very supportive in every way. When they would see a single woman, I've never in my 25 plus years in this country ever felt that. So I think that's an amazing, and I think I'm very blessed to have lived here for such a long time. So there are some, when I was sort of I think I asked you this question as well when I was doing my preparation for this session. Is there's a lot of life lessons that I've learned over the last 25 or 30 years, and keeping in mind this very important topic of empowering women, which I think is close to every woman's heart. I don't think there's a woman on the planet who doesn't, in some way, feel very passionately about it and contribute to it in some way. I felt that the best way I could do that is by sharing some of the life lessons that I learned. And I know there's a lot of young women on the audience and even in the speakers. So I wanted to actually share that, and I made a few notes. A couple of things that I went through in my journey is I think that a lot of us go through a time when we're lost or confused, whether it's directly out of college or whether it's after your first job. I think it was Urooj who mentioned that her education was in one field and then she decided to go into accountancy. It's okay to be lost. It's not something that I don't think there's anyone on the planet who has never felt like that. The important thing is to not question your strength and your inner ability to do things and to face challenges and to overcome them. I think that's where we do ourselves in. We don't do ourselves justice as women. You said earlier when you were opening this session about Pakistani women and how all I can say about Pakistani women is that we're extremely resilient. I don't think we even recognize our own strength till we really are put to the test. And I think that's generally true for women across the globe, but particularly with Pakistani women. I think there's a perception that we come from a very conservative culture, and there are all these, these societal sort of restrictions. But when a woman is put to the test, she more than achieves, what the goal is. So I think the worst thing you can do is to question your ability or your strength, because there will be times when you won't get the support that you're looking for if you make a change, if you're looking to make a change. And I've gone through that personally. But you do have to look within yourself and find that strength. So that's the one thing that's the first most important message I'd like to give. The other thing is, if you are struggling to find your calling or your passion, the best place to look is within yourself. So you need to kind of tap into your roots. I think the first place and the best place to find what you really want to do with your life is to figure out identify your values. What is it that really makes you what you feel passionate about? What is it that you love doing? What is it that gets you inspired? And if you're not able to kind of find the next step, then look for someone who has had a similar journey or who is interested in a similar thing, and try to get, as Haseeba said, I think coaching and counseling, it's underrated. You'd be very lucky if you could find someone who could counsel you or mentor you and help you along your journey to sort of find a step. What is the next step to getting to what I want to do? I mean, sometimes you don't even know where to start. So that's what I would say. And be honest with yourself. When you ask yourself those questions, you need to be extremely honest. One thing that I've experienced last year with COVID, I think with all of the fact that our lives have been upended, right? There's been so many redundancies, and people have thought about making career changes because they really realize that they've spent all their time doing stuff that they really don't like and they want to do something different. So there have been long periods where one is feeling financially strained because, obviously you're not earning. And I think at a time like that, if you can set aside your troubles and actually help someone who reaches out and needs help, there's nothing more gratifying than that. And I've experienced that myself last year. There was a very good initiative initiated by the Pakistani Association here from the Ladies Forum. And I had the opportunity to counsel and mentor 16 or 20 women. And these are women who were sitting at home and they had seen their husbands lose their jobs and they were feeling extremely helpless. But there's that passion and that drive to contribute and do something and really be part of the solution. And it was such an honor to be able to just, talk these women through what they wanted to do and give them the moral support and the guidance that I would. So I would just say to every woman out there, and I know a couple of the ladies who spoke before me have said the same thing, it's very important to support each other. in whatever phase of your corporate career or your life you're in, because even women who, especially women who are in high pressure jobs, they really need support and they need counseling. And a lot of times they don't know where to look, particularly in UAE, if you're living alone or you don't have your family with you. It can be a very difficult time. The other thing that I would say is that when you do finally find your path and you find your passion and your calling, don't forget to pay it forward. So remember to find places where you can help other women, you know. And I think women helping women is the first step. I think even Haseeba said this, that it's not just about other people helping you. I think initially we first need to figure out what is it that we want to do, tapping into that inner strength and that inner potential. So I think that is probably the most important thing. And if you can do that when you yourself are struggling, there is nothing more gratifying than that. Sorry, that was a longer introduction, I think, than you expected.
Saadia, your talks are really impressive, and these are the pearls. These are the pearls of the life experiences that you have collected for the audience, and I guess that anyone who is listening will get a great value out of it. So, I mean, time doesn't permit. I would like actually to speak on and on. You have a lot of experience, and you rightly said that education, learning, mentoring, support for women, getting a platform. That's why Berkeley Investor Club for Women Wing is always supportive for women who need any kind of support, like a training, consultancy. And people like you, of course, are always a help for the women in UAE and the women in Pakistan. I'm sure that your doors are open, and anytime if they need any support, they can approach us or you directly for any kind of assistance. So I would request you for your closing remarks for the day.
Sure. So I wanted to tell you that is what I do now. In the last 6 years, I am working as a business consultant and a trainer, corporate trainer. And that is my passion. So my entire journey, I think, has brought me to this place where I have finally found my calling. My real passion is working with people. And through my corporate training, I help people tap into sometimes hidden potential that they don't even know they have, bringing it out and being the best version of themselves at home, in their work lives, in every aspect. And I think, yes, absolutely. I'm always looking for opportunities where I am able to contribute. I am I think I'm one of the, I think every expat Pakistani feels this way. When you move away from your country, that love for your country develops even more and more. And I really look forward to one day, inshallah, being able to be part of the great journey that Pakistan is on right now. There's such amazing things happening in our country, also in the space of women empowerment. I mean, you see women, like you said, there are women now in professions that I never saw when I was living there, and I haven't seen for so many years. We have pilots, we have women getting into martial arts and teaching self-defense. We have women who are mountain climbers and they're teaching other women how to do it. And they are mechanics and they're on. I mean, there's just a lot happening in the space of women empowerment. I think that any opportunity to be able to do that would be a privilege. And I think just one last thing that I think Haseeba touched on as well is that there is a lot of awareness about all the social ills that exist in our society right now, which hold women back. And I think media is doing its part. There's a lot of stories that are coming out through our serials and our dramas. I'm going to take this opportunity, this platform to promote the amazing kind of dramas that are coming out of Pakistan, production quality and all of that. But I think the stories that they focus on and the message that's going out is very important. Empowering women is about understanding what your inner strength is and creating an environment for a woman where she has choices, right? It's about giving women the control back on their lives, whether it's choosing to study as opposed to getting married at the right age, or whether it's about covering up or not covering up, or whether it's setting up a business with no background and no experience because you want to support your family, you want to support your parents or your husband and your kids. I think if we as women, I am very conscious of the fact that I am one of the privileged, the minority who've had a great education and who've had an experience, a career where I've been able to learn so much. And if there is any opportunity for me to help someone who hasn't been that privileged, then that's my duty as a Pakistani, at first as a human being and as a Muslim, and then as a Pakistani. So I would encourage and you have an amazing panel of women here and some of the other programs you've done. And I'm sure that every woman on that panel is going to say the same thing. So yeah, I'm really glad that you've invited all of us, and I really want to thank you for letting me speak on this platform.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts. These are lovely thoughts, and we will continue our discussions in future as well for a common strategy for the betterment of women, not only in Pakistan, but all the developing countries. Thank you very much for your time and
Thank you.
yourself.
Thank you. Take care.